She begged for work without pay. What he said next shocked everyone. Emily Turner stood alone on the deserted train platform, snow biting at her cheeks, her thin coat no match for the biting wind. The train had already departed, leaving her alone amidst the blizzard and the dry red desert sands. Her eyes blurred from the cold, her lips tinged purple, yet a faint glimmer of hope still flickered in her gaze. She whispered, "Please, I just need to work," as if her words could hold back the wild storm raging outside. From afar, the silhouette of a man appeared. Jack Sawyer, his wide-brimmed hat shadowing his stern face, a thick leather coat draped over broad shoulders. He stopped his horse, his calm yet warm eyes fixed on Emily. "Ma'am, you'll freeze out here," he said, his deep, gentle voice echoing through the whistling wind. In that moment, Emily felt her heart skip a beat, no longer entirely alone in the harsh frontier. Without hesitation, Jack draped his wide coat over her shoulders and carefully lifted her onto his horse. Snow fell like sparkling crystals, and the coat flared gently in the wind. Emily whispered, trembling, "Why? Help me." He replied slowly, warmly, "'Cause someone should have helped me once." For a moment the storm outside seemed to ease, giving way to a serene calm atop the horse. Inside the small wooden cabin, the fire crackled, chasing away the chill, and the aroma of steaming tea and burning wood filled the air. Jack set her on a chair, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, poured warm tea, and smiled gently. "Sip slow. Storm's nasty," he said, his voice soft, soothing Emily's soul after the desperate hours outside. She began to breathe, slowly, feeling warmth spread through her, her heart easing, and for the first time, a sense of safety touched her small, trembling heart. Close-ups of Emily's eyes, her trembling hands clutching an old crucifix, and Jack's gaze lingering on the scarred saddle both shared silent losses, pains only the Wild West could understand. He admitted, his voice tinged with emotion, "I was left too." In that moment, kindness and empathy wove an invisible bond between two lost souls, opening a spark of hope in a harsh world. Finally, Jack stood at the cabin doorway, Emily wrapped in a blanket, her trusting gaze fixed on him. "You're safe here," he said, firm yet warm. Outside, the blizzard softened the fire's warmth, defeating the cold, giving rise to a Western tale both romantic and healing. The audience could not help but wonder what would happen next. Would Emily find a home in this unforgiving frontier, just as Jack promised? Part 1. First Encounter. The cold desert wind still swept across the deserted train station as Emily Turner stood shivering, her eyes searching for the fading silhouette of the departing train. Snow lightly dusted her tousled hair, and her lips were purple from the biting cold. Her solitary footsteps echoed on the old wooden floor, like the heartbeat of a tiny soul struggling not to be swallowed by despair. She looked around, the fragile hope in her blue eyes slowly dimming under the heavy silence that engulfed the station. From afar, Jack Sawyer stood atop a hill, his figure on a black horse striking against the raging snowstorm. He watched Emily, every trembling gesture, every pleading glance, and his heart ached. In that moment, he recognized the deep loneliness within her, a solitude he himself had once known. He paused, studying her, then decided to advance each step, deliberate, the hoofbeats echoing through the cold, empty air. Emily turned eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope as Jack's figure drew nearer. She did not know whether this was salvation or merely an illusion in the midst of the fierce blizzard. Her heart raced, breath rising in thin clouds into the frigid air. Someone has to help me, she thought, but her own whisper was carried away by the wind. Jack stopped a few steps away, his gaze steady, his deep yet warm voice cutting through the howling wind. "Ma'am, you'll freeze out here." A single brief sentence yet, Emily felt warmth seep through the thin layers of her clothing, and a spark of hope began to flicker in her trembling heart. She stepped closer, leaning into the eyes of this stranger, who for some inexplicable reason made her feel safe, even as the wild blizzard raged outside. Jack opened his arms, draping his thick coat over her shoulders, gently shielding her small, shivering frame. Tiny flakes of snow fell on his hair and coat, sparkling in the dim moonlight. For the first time in hours of solitude, Emily felt a sense of safety, a warmth and tenderness like a blanket wrapping around her wounded soul. In that moment, amid the deserted train station, two lost souls found each other amidst the raging blizzard. Emily realized that hope, however fragile, could still bloom in the harshest of landscapes. Jack looked at her, his gaze full of determination. He would not let her face this wild west alone. And from that look, a new story began, where loneliness meets kindness, and a faint glimmer of hope begins to shine through the snowstorm. Part 2. Shelter from the storm. The blizzard still howled outside, but inside the wooden cabin, the crackling fire illuminated every corner of the room, creating a warm and peaceful space. The scent of burning wood mingled with the aroma of steaming tea, and Emily Turner felt warmth spreading through her body, dispelling the chill that had haunted her since the deserted train station. Jack Sawyer stepped gently into the cabin, his gaze calm yet warm. He draped his wide coat over Emily's shoulders, shielding her from the lingering cold. His movements were gentle yet purposeful, as if every step had been measured to ensure she felt completely safe. He lifted her and carried her to the center of the cabin where the fire blazed and a cup of tea waited on the old wooden table. Emily shivered, clutching the thick coat, feeling a sense of safety seep into her heart for the first time after hours of blizzard and solitude. Jack's deep, gentle voice resonated. "Sip slow. Storm's nasty." The simple yet comforting words wrapped around her like a protective blanket, soothing every lingering fear. On the table, Jack placed a steaming plate of bread. He handed it to Emily with a gentle smile, his eyes full of care. Looking into his eyes, she saw a rare tenderness in the Wild West and felt a flicker of trust she was no longer alone. She nibbled the bread and sipped the warm tea, feeling the comforting heat seep into every breath and heartbeat. The cabin fell into a quiet stillness, broken only by the crackle of the fire, the wind howling outside, and the steady rhythm of two hearts that had just found each other. Emily began to realize that this harsh West could also be a place of solace, a place where lonely hearts could meet and heal. Jack stood silently beside her, watching, his gaze gentle yet determined. He would not let her face the blizzard and its challenges alone. In that moment, bathed in warm light and the wind's distant roar, Emily felt her heart soften, hope beginning to bloom, and a subtle bond forming between two people who had just met. She realized that sometimes a single act of kindness, a coat or a cup of hot tea, could transform despair into comfort and open the door to a new story full of hope in the Wild West. Part 3. Past Wounds. Revealed. Inside the warm wooden cabin, the firelight cast long shadows dancing across the floor. The wind still howled outside the window, but within, everything seemed still. Emily Turner sat in the chair, still clutching Jack's coat, her breathing steadier after sipping the hot tea. She felt warmth spreading through her body, yet deep within the scars of loneliness, abandonment, and despair remained. She looked down at the table, her gaze pensive, a soft sigh escaping her lips. Jack, I've lost everything. Emily began, her voice trembling, but resilient. My husband. He passed away early, leaving me alone, with no one by my side. And now, I have nothing. No work, no home, no one to lean on. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks, blending with the warm, golden glow of the fire. The loneliness of the train station returned, but now wrapped in this safe space, she allowed herself to be vulnerable to cry. Jack Sawyer sat beside her, his hand gently resting on hers, his gaze calm, yet filled with empathy. He remained silent for a moment, as if listening to each quivering heartbeat, each breath blending into the warm cabin air. Emily, his voice deep yet gentle, I understand. I understand what it feels like to be left alone. She looked up, eyes wide, staring into him, as though seeking truth in his words. Jack took a deep breath, keeping his hand firmly holding hers, creating a solid connection between two people who had once been lost. I was left too. My wife. She left before I could say goodbye. I've felt that emptiness, that solitude in this harsh West, he murmured. Each word, though soft, struck Emily's heart like a bridge connecting their shared pain. She felt his sorrow, the loneliness he carried for years, and empathy arose within her, soothing part of her own hurt. The cabin grew quiet, save for the crackle of the fire and the steady breaths of the two souls. Emily bit her lip, trying to suppress the flood of emotions, but finally whispered, her voice breaking Jack. I've never told anyone this. I thought I'd have to endure it all alone. Jack looked deeply into her eyes, his gaze gentle yet resolute. Not anymore. I'm here, and you won't be alone. In that moment, Emily felt safety radiate through her. She leaned into his shoulder, the tenderness gently healing each fragment of her wounded soul. For the first time in months of solitude, Emily believed there was someone who truly understood and cared for her, not just out of pity, but because he had endured similar loss. Jack continued, his voice deep and gentle. You know, this West can be harsh. Often people feel abandoned. But if we find someone who understands and shares with us, then even the deepest loneliness can be soothed. Emily nodded softly, tears still streaking her cheeks. But now, they were no longer tears of despair. They were a recognition of new hope. He poured a cup of hot tea, placing it before her with a gentle smile. Drink this. Let it warm your body and soul. We found each other amidst the storm, Emily. She smiled weakly, yet her eyes glimmered with a spark of hope. She sipped the tea warmth, spreading through every beat of her heart, and for the first time, she felt she could trust. Stories of loss of those who had left them were now shared in the soft glow of the cabin. Jack spoke of his wife, the pain of losing the one he loved most, and Emily listened, feeling every word, every emotion. They sat together in silence, sometimes exchanging only glances. Yet in that silence, loneliness began to fade, replaced by empathy, connection, and healing. Emily remembered the deserted train station, the blizzard sweeping through. But now she knew she was no longer alone. Jack had been there lifting her from the cold, bringing her into the warm firelight, offering safety and deep empathy. She realized that sometimes a single gentle gesture, a whisper from the heart, could ease the pain a person carried for years. Jack looked at her, his gaze calm, yet full of compassion. "Emily, I know you've been hurt, been lonely, but you don't have to endure it alone anymore. Let me be here to share that burden with you." Emily lowered her head quietly, inhaling, feeling his heartbeat merge with hers. The sense of safety, of empathy, of soothing after tragedy, all converged in this silent, profound moment. The wind still howled outside, yet Emily no longer felt fear. She realized that the harsh West could make people feel lost, but if one found someone who truly empathized and shared with them all, pain could be softened. This moment became a turning point where Emily and Jack began to open their hearts, sharing loss, empathy, and understanding. Together, they sat in silence, the fire casting long shadows on the cabin walls, like the traces of past wounds being healed. Emily thought, perhaps this West isn't entirely cold. Perhaps warmth, humanity, and hope can still exist here. Jack looked at her, his gaze gentle but determined, as if to say he would not abandon her, and that the loneliness she had endured would now be shared and healed. In that moment, between the blizzard outside and the warm firelight within, Emily and Jack discovered deep empathy, the safety they had longed for, and a flicker of hope began to ignite in her heart. This was not just a story of physical rescue from the storm, but a journey of emotional healing, where two people, once abandoned, found each other, opening a new chapter filled with emotion, tenderness, and hope in the Wild West. Part 4. Town Conflict. Early in the morning, the small western town slowly woke under the pale light of dawn. Red dust rose from the dirt roads, mingling with the distant echoes of hoofbeats. Emily Turner stood beside Jack Sawyer, her eyes a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, as they stepped down from the cabin and headed toward the town to buy a few necessities. The blizzard had subsided, but the air remained crisp and tense, as if the West had never truly released the souls it held in its harsh grip. As the pair entered the town square, Sheriff Harlan appeared. He stood tall, a heavy coat on his shoulders, sharp eyes, hand resting on the hilt of his leather-bound gun. "Sawyer," he said, his voice firm and steady, "I've heard this young woman is staying here without permission. Town law does not allow strangers to arrive and remain without registering or having paid work." Emily lifted her head, eyes wide, her heart racing as the tension she had felt upon entering town surged. Jack placed his hand over Emily's, his gaze locked on Sheriff Harlan, calm but resolute. "Sheriff, she just arrived. She needs a safe place, and I will ensure she causes no trouble." Jack's voice was steady, an invisible shield instilling confidence in Emily. Harlan frowned, stepping closer, yet maintaining a respectful distance. "Sawyer, the law is the law. We cannot allow anyone to violate it at will." Emily felt the pressure, but also saw in Jack's eyes an unwavering protection. He stood in front of her, like a solid shield against the strict town law. "Sheriff, she will work at my ranch. I take full responsibility. I will make sure she has no trouble with the law." "Can you allow her to stay?" Jack said, his voice deep and warm, yet firm and decisive. Sheriff Harlan studied Jack for a long moment, weighing strict law against human compassion. Emily felt her heart lift slightly, a spark of hope igniting. She stepped forward, her voice trembling, yet determined. "Sir, please give me a chance. I will do everything I can. Just a place to stay, a job to support myself. I promise not to break any rules." Her words, though soft, carried a courage that made Sheriff Harlan hesitate. Jack placed his hand on Emily's shoulder, bowing his head slightly as if to reassure her. "It's okay. Trust in what's right." His eyes met Harlan's, directly strong, but not threatening, challenging any preconceptions, emphasizing that honor and kindness were just as important as the law. Sheriff Harlan sighed, his gaze softening slightly, though his tone remained serious. "I will allow her to stay, but I will be watching. Everything must be by the book, Sawyer. If there's any problem, the responsibility is yours." Jack nodded his eyes, never leaving Emily, making sure she understood she was now truly safe. Emily felt her heart skip a beat, a tiny flame of hope flickering within her. The pair walked through the town square, and Emily began to realize that sometimes the harsh West was not just about blizzards or deserts, but also about rigid rules and social prejudice. Yet if someone stood beside her, protecting her with both honor and heart, any challenge could be overcome. Jack's gaze, gentle yet steadfast, showed her that hope could exist even in the harshest place. Emily remembered the moment she had been left alone at the train station, shivering in the snow, despair wrapping around her. Now, seeing Jack standing before her, shielding her from the strict laws and the sheriff's stern eyes, she understood that loss and loneliness could be eased if someone truly cared. They continued down the main street, past wooden buildings and open shops, red dust rising with each step. Emily noticed the townspeople watching quietly, but no one intervened. Jack stayed close, his eyes always on her, silently saying, "You are not alone." She felt a rare warmth, both tender and full of hope. In that moment, Emily began to believe that the Wild West could be a refuge, a place where people could find safety and kindness despite rigid laws and social prejudice. And Jack, with his determination and honor, became a shelter for her heart, offering a glimmer of hope amid a challenging life. The blizzard outside had passed, but challenges still lay ahead. Yet Emily no longer felt fear. She knew that even in a strict town, justice and kindness could exist, and together with Jack, she could overcome any obstacle, finding hope and peace in the harsh West. This moment closed the chapter of minor conflict, but was full of meaning. Jack protected Emily from the harsh law, while opening a spark of hope, laying the foundation for their relationship to grow. Emily looked at Jack, her eyes full of trust, and for the first time felt her heart soften, believing that hope could bloom, even amidst hardship, injustice, and prejudice. Part 5. Bonding with the Twins. Morning at the ranch stretched across the wide fields, soft sunlight filtering through the trees and wooden rooftops. Liam and Clara, the orphan children Jack had been caring for, played around the horse pen, their clear laughter echoing across the space. The atmosphere was gentle and warm, a stark contrast to the tension and challenges Emily had faced at the train station and in town. Emily Turner stood on the porch, her eyes following the bounding steps of Liam and Clara, a feeling of both distance and closeness stirring in her heart. She had never cared for children before, never experienced such innocent moments. But now, seeing the playful gleam in their eyes, Emily felt a new joy ignite a sense of being needed she had never known. Jack Sawyer approached his gaze, gentle, calm, yet full of life. He bent down, picking up a small stone and handing it to Liam, guiding him on how to throw it accurately. Clara giggled, tossing her hair back, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Emily watched slowly moving closer, smiling. "They're so adorable," she whispered, the soft words carrying warmth that eased the lingering loneliness from her past. Jack turned to her, his gaze tender yet quiet, a subtle smile on his lips. "Want to try?" he asked, his voice warm but unpressured. Emily nodded and stepped beside the children. She held a small stone, aimed and threw awkwardly but enthusiastically. Liam and Clara clapped and laughed, and Emily felt her heart stir. For the first time since arriving in the West, she truly felt like she belonged somewhere. They worked together, cleaning the stables, feeding the horses, and watering the plants. Every move Emily made was observed by Jack, who occasionally bent down to offer gentle guidance, his gaze soft but filled with determination. "That's right, just like that," Jack said, his deep voice filled with affection, making Emily feel safe and confident. When lunch was ready, Emily and Jack sat side by side with Liam and Clara around the table, eyes bright as they looked at the simple yet comforting meal. They shared warm bread and tea, laughing together, the gap between the newcomer and Jack's little family fading. Emily realized that these small moments, laughter, innocent eyes, the warmth of the fire, gentle affection, could heal deep wounds in the heart. Jack told Emily playful stories about Liam and Clara when they were younger, about their mischief and the times they messed up the ranch, but then made amends. Emily listened, her eyes sparkling with joy, a constant smile on her lips. She felt her heart gently stir, realizing her feelings were growing not only for Jack, but also for the two children, for the small family she had never imagined she could belong to. Afternoon past, sunlight fading, casting soft golden rays across the fields and rooftops. Emily and Jack led Liam and Clara to the meadow, letting them run and play with the horses and wild grasses. Emily looked at Jack, her eyes full of gratitude and tenderness. He returned her gaze with a quiet smile, silently saying, "You belong here, and I will always be by your side." In that moment, amid the laughter of children, the clatter of hooves, and the warm golden afternoon light, Emily felt a peace she had not known in months of solitude. She understood that the Wild West, with all its challenges, could also be a place to find happiness, love, and a home. Liam and Clara became a bridge, bringing her and Jack closer, creating a subtle and heartfelt connection, easing the wounds of the past. Emily bent down, lifted Clara onto her shoulders, and the two ran around the meadow, laughter ringing out. Jack held Liam's hand as he ran alongside the four of them, creating a scene full of life, warmth, and affection. Emily realized that happiness often does not come from grand gestures, but from simple moments, laughter, touch, and the gentle love that grows between hearts, willing to empathize and share. As the sun set, the little family returned to the cabin. Emily set the two children down on a chair, looking at Jack with eyes full of gratitude and tenderness. He smiled, looking back, as if to say they had reached an important turning point. From loneliness, loss, and hardship, they had found connection, warmth, and a new spark of hope. Emily felt her heartbeat soften, her spirit lighten, realizing that the West, though wild and harsh, could still be a sanctuary for hearts that know how to wait, love, and trust. This moment not only healed her, but also opened a new chapter in her relationship with Jack, where affection blossomed naturally, tenderly, and full of hope across the wide fields and golden sunlight. Part 6. Emily's Test. Afternoon. Sunlight stretched across the wide fields, casting golden rays over the green grasses dusted with red western soil, filtering through the wooden rooftops and the crooked fences of the ranch. Emily Turner stood in the meadow, eyes determined, taking a deep breath. She looked at the grazing cattle, the frolicking horses, and the worn tools in need of care. This was the first time she had to prove herself in a completely new environment, a place where only resilience and self-respect could ensure survival. Jack Sawyer stood beside her quietly, observing, his gaze calm but full of trust. "Start with something easy," he said, his voice warm, not commanding, but offering gentle guidance. Emily nodded, gripping the rope in her hand, and stepped forward to tame a young cow wandering in the yard. Her heart raced, breaths steady yet tinged with nervousness. But determination surged within her. She would prove that she was not just a girl who had been abandoned, but someone who could stand strong in the harsh West. She tightened the rope, taking careful steps, eyes locked on the young cow. It thrashed, pulling hard against the rope, but Emily did not flinch. She took a deep breath, recalling Jack's advice, and used all her strength to regain control. Sweat dotted her forehead, but her gaze never wavered. One misstep, one slow gesture, and she could fail. Yet Emily knew this test mattered more than anything. It was her chance to assert herself, to show both Jack and herself that she could stand on her own. Jack watched occasionally, nodding, his eyes gentle, but refraining from intervening. He let Emily experience it herself, to feel her own strength and limits. "Keep going, Emily. I know you can do it," he said, his voice deep but encouraging. Emily felt a surge of pride, and step by step, gesture by gesture, she gradually gained control over the cow. The clatter of hooves, the animal's struggle, and the gentle wind created a lively western rhythm, making the challenge feel both vivid and exhilarating. After much effort, Emily finally guided the cow safely back to the pen. She panted, sweat glistening on her forehead, yet her eyes shone with pride. Jack approached, a quiet smile on his lips, eyes full of empathy and encouragement. "I knew you could do it. You've proven yourself." Emily felt her heart lift, a strong sense of self-respect rising within her. For the first time since arriving in the West, she truly felt she belonged here, no longer a lost soul. Next, Emily helped Jack check the fences, repairing the crooked wooden planks. She held a hammer, nailing carefully. Her hands trembled at first, but grew steadier with each strike. Jack stood nearby, offering gentle guidance when needed, but never taking over. Emily felt a subtle joy in being able to accomplish something useful, not just for the ranch, but for Jack and the children. Her resilience blended with the afternoon sunlight, creating a serene yet deeply emotional scene. Liam and Clara ran over their eyes, sparkling as they watched Emily repair the fence. Clara cheered Emily. "You're amazing." Liam giggled, clapping his hands, making Emily smile, her heart melting in simple joy. She realized that these small moments of happiness, the recognition from the two children, were enough to dispel the remnants of loneliness in her heart. she promised herself that no matter how difficult the challenge, she would not give up. Jack observed from a distance, his gaze gentle yet determined, silently affirming that all of Emily's efforts were valued. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder, his deep voice warm. "You did very well. That's not just strength, it's resilience and self-respect. Those matter more than any challenge." Emily felt his empathy and encouragement, her heart softening, a sense of acceptance and trust rising within her. As afternoon waned, the golden sunlight reflected off the fields, the wooden rooftops, and the newly repaired fences. Emily stood in the meadow, sweat-soaked eyes sparkling with determination. She realized this challenge was not merely physical labor, but a journey to prove her worth, an important step in her growth. The audience empathizes with Emily because they see a resilient individual who refuses to quit maintaining self-respect and hope even in the face of hardship. When Jack and Emily led the animals back to the pen, they tidied the tools together, sharing smiles and small stories. Liam and Clara ran around Emily, leaping with joy, making her feel a simple yet complete happiness. Emily realized that the harsh West not only tested her, but also helped her discover inner strength, self-confidence, and a deeper connection with Jack and the little family. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Emily stood on the hillside, looking across the vast fields, her heart brimming with pride and hope. She knew that today's challenge was only the beginning, but through resilience, self-respect, and Jack's support, she had proven herself. Most importantly, she understood that it was the bond, trust, and connection between people that provided the true strength to face the wild and unforgiving West. Part 7. Jack's Secret. Night fell, and the full moon cast its pale silver light through the cabin window, creating streaks across the wooden floor and worn furnishings. The wind outside occasionally whistled through the cracks, blending with the crackle of the fire, creating a quiet, intimate space. Emily Turner sat in a chair, clutching a blanket, her eyes following the dancing flames, a sense of peace and warmth gradually spreading through her. After a long day of trials at the ranch, Jack Sawyer sat opposite her, his gaze calm but full of tenderness. The quiet, punctuated only by the fire, and their steady breaths created the perfect space for secrets to surface, for pain and wounds to find a path toward healing. He sighed softly, looking at Emily with depth, as if wanting her to feel the truth in his heart. "Emily," Jack began, his voice low, gentle, almost a whisper. "I have never spoken to anyone about my wife. She left too soon. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I let her go without holding on. For all these years, that pain has followed me like a shadow I cannot remove." Emily listened, eyes wide, moonlight reflecting off the window onto her face, a mixture of empathy and profound emotion. Jack lowered his head, hands clasped, then lifted them to touch the cup of tea in front of him. "I used to think I could no longer care for anyone, no longer had the courage to open my heart. But seeing you, Emily, I realized that the heart can still feel and care can still be given." He lifted his gaze, soft but deep, touching Emily's soul with gentle sincerity. Emily felt her heartbeat inch closer, her heart softening after the losses she had endured. She knew this was more than just confession. This was Jack placing his trust and truth in her hands, forming a deep bond between two people who had once been lonely and wounded. Emily, I protect you, not just out of duty or honor. Jack continued, his voice low but resolute, but because I understand what it feels like to be left alone. I don't want you to endure that loneliness. I will stand for you, just as I once wished someone had stood for me. Emily remained silent, tears brimming, feeling a gentle warmth flood through her. She realized that this tenderness was not only physical safety, but also emotional healing. Jack's words eased a portion of her pain, filling some of the loneliness with true empathy. Jack poured more tea into her cup, the aroma mingling with the scent of burning wood, creating a serene moment under the moonlight. He placed his hand over hers, eyes meeting hers, deep and sincere. Emily, sometimes this West is harsh, leaving people feeling lost and wounded. But if we find someone who understands, empathizes, and shares with us, that pain can be healed. Emily lowered her head, feeling her heartbeat align with Jack's. She exhaled gently, a sense of peace and security spreading through her. For the first time in a long while, she felt trusted, accepted, and most importantly, deeply understood. This shared moment opened a space for healing, where two people could lay down their losses, pain, and wounds, finding solace in each other. Jack spoke of the days after losing his wife, the lonely moments he had to face alone amidst the desert winds. Emily listened, eyes reflecting empathy. She realized her own pain was not unique, and Jack's compassion made her feel less alone. In that moment, words were not necessary. Only the shared gaze, breath, and presence of one another conveyed a profound sense of healing. Jack looked at Emily, his voice warm and steady. I know you've been left to experience loss and loneliness, but now I am here. We don't have to endure it alone anymore. I will stand by you, and together, we will move forward. Emily looked at him, tears in her eyes, but lips curved in a gentle smile. Her heart softened, a sense of acceptance and love flooding in. She realized that even in the harsh, challenging West, two people could find healing and hope as long as they opened their hearts and trusted in empathy. The moonlit night enveloped them, silver light streaking across the floor, creating a shimmering scene. Emily felt her heart inch closer to Jack's, a gentle peace spreading within. Jack looked at her, his gaze calm and full, affirming that he would always be by her side and that the pains of the past could be healed together. That quiet moment by the crackling fire and under the moon's silver glow became a symbol of trust, empathy, and healing between two people once wounded. Emily realized that loneliness no longer ruled her heart. It was replaced by trust and hope. And from this moment, a new chapter began, a chapter of empathy, healing, and tender love between Emily and Jack, opening the next journey in the Wild West. Part 8. Emily's Realization. The sunset stretched across the vast fields, casting a golden hue over the grasses and red dust of the west, creating a scene both wild and tender. Emily Turner stood amidst the meadow, listening to the wind rustling through the grasses, mingling with the birds returning to their nests and the distant sound of hooves. This quiet, expansive space brought her a sense of freedom, a chance to reflect on her journey so far from loneliness and trials to the moments of peace beside Jack and the two children. She watched Jack Sawyer smiling gently at Liam and Clara, guiding them back toward the ranch. He stood firmly on the grass, eyes turned toward Emily, filled with care and tenderness. Emily felt her heartbeat quicken with each step he took. She realized that the gentle, warm feelings she had experienced with Jack were not merely protection or empathy. They had grown into a deeper emotion, a romantic feeling she had never recognized before. Emily thought of all the moments with Jack, from the time he carried her out of the blizzard to the warm cabin evenings, the days working together on the ranch, and the moonlit night when he shared his loss and pain. Each moment had stirred her heart sweet and exhilarating. She began to understand that she had fallen in love with Jack, not just out of gratitude or safety, but because he touched her heart in a way no one ever had. She turned to look at Jack, seeing him standing between Liam and Clara, the sunset highlighting his brown hair, his face calm yet full of emotion. Emily felt a spark of hope in her heart, hope that her feelings might be returned, that she was no longer alone in the vast, unforgiving West. She smiled, her gaze tender yet radiant, and took slow steps toward him. Jack noticed her approaching, his eyes lighting up with warmth and curiosity. When she stood before him, the distance between them seemed bridged by an invisible thread connecting their hearts. Emily took a deep breath, letting her emotions flow, and softly, yet sincerely said, "Jack, I don't know when it happened, but I realize my heart belongs to you." Jack looked at her eyes wide, the sunset reflecting in them, calm yet filled with tenderness. He did not rush to speak, only placing his hand on her shoulder, a gentle yet meaningful touch. "Emily, I've been waiting to hear these words for a long time," he said, his voice low and warm, making her heart flutter. "I have realized my feelings for you since the very beginning." In that moment, the sunset bathed the vast fields, the soft golden light imbuing the entire scene with warmth and romance. Liam and Clara stood nearby, watching the two with innocent eyes, silent witnesses to a love blossoming. Emily felt a gentle happiness spread through her body, hope and affection blooming in her heart, like the sunset illuminating the endless fields. Emily and Jack walked along the trail through the meadow sunset, light falling on their hair and faces creating shimmering streaks of gold. They held hands, walking slowly, savoring each heartbeat, each breath, each moment intertwined with the western landscape. Every step was not just forward movement, but a journey, affirming love, trust, and hope for the future. She looked at Jack, eyes full of emotion, and gently placed her hand in his. I feel at peace when I'm with you," she said, her voice trembling, yet warm. Jack smiled, lifting her hand to his lips in a soft kiss, a wordless gesture full of affection, allowing Emily to feel a profound happiness healing the wounds of the past. They paused in the middle of the meadow, the sunset painting the sky in fiery reds, and stood in silence gazing at each other. No words were needed. The look in their eyes, their smiles, and their presence were enough for two formerly lonely hearts to find connection and deep love. Emily felt her heart fill with hope. The Wild West, though harsh, could still be a place where love flourished and hearts were healed. Jack leaned closer, his voice low and warm. "Emily, I promise I will always be by your side as you have trusted me. We will face all challenges together, and this love will be our shelter in this Wild West." Emily smiled, closing her eyes, letting the sunset and the warmth of that promise seep into her heart, tender yet brimming with hope. That moment in the sunset meadow became a symbol of recognition, hope, and romance blossoming in the vast West. Emily understood that after all the trials, losses, and loneliness, she had found a heart that empathized with hers, a gentle but sincere love, and a hope that opened the door to a bright new future. Her heart overflowed with emotion, eyes shining as she looked at Jack. In the sunset light, she knew that this love was not fleeting, but the foundation of a new chapter in her life, a chapter of hope, love, and healing amidst the Wild West. Liam and Clara ran around them, their laughter carried by the wind, forming a gentle melody, witnessing the love blooming between Emily and Jack. Emily stepped closer to Jack, bowing her head as he pulled her into an embrace. The two stood there amidst the meadow, and the sunset hearts beating in sync with the vast western landscape, feeling romance, hope, and gentle happiness, a reminder that no matter how harsh the world, love and empathy can flourish, heal all wounds, and open bright new chapters. Part 9. Defending Love. Early morning. In the small western town, sunlight filtered through the wooden rooftops, casting a golden glow over the dust rising with every step. Emily Turner walked beside Jack Sawyer, clutching his coat, her eyes a mix of curiosity and tension. The peaceful days at the ranch had given her hope, but returning to town reminded her that not everything would be easy. A few townsfolk stood in the square, whispering and casting wary glances at the stranger in their midst, and her close relationship with Jack. Jack walked close to Emily, his gaze serious yet calm. He observed the townspeople, recognizing the prejudice, suspicion, and quiet warnings in their murmurs. "Emily, don't worry. I'll stand in front of you, just as I promised," he said, his voice deep, firm, yet gentle. Emily felt the steadiness of Jack, her heart softening, hope rising that they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. An elderly townsman stepped forward, voice stern. "Sawyer, this girl is a stranger. She should not stand among us, nor be treated like one of our own. Law and honor must be upheld." The townsfolk nodded, eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. Emily stepped back, heart pounding, but Jack positioned himself firmly before her broad shoulders and strong stance, a protective shield. Jack took a deep breath, meeting the man's gaze. "The law is important, but kindness and honor are just as vital. Emily has done nothing wrong. She is only seeking safety and a chance to support herself. If we are to speak of honor, look at her resilience, standing tall through every challenge." His voice resonated with authority, powerful yet not threatening, causing the tension in the square to pause. Emily stood behind him, eyes wide, feeling her heartbeat calm in response to Jack's determination and courage. In his gaze, she saw a silent message: "Do not fear. I will not let you be harmed." In that moment, she understood that love and protection were not only feelings of warmth, but acts of courage standing for justice and honor. The townspeople paused, though some still held wary glances. A young man stepped forward, mocking, "Does Sawyer think he has the right to decide who belongs here? This girl isn't one of us." Jack stepped forward, standing resolutely before Emily, eyes cold but steady. "No one has the right to harm her. I stand here not only for my honor, but for justice. If she is mistreated, I will not accept it." The townsfolk fell silent, recognizing the resolve and authority in Jack's eyes. Emily felt her heart soften, a spark of hope and trust lighting within her. She stepped forward, taking his hand, sharing strength and support. "Jack, I thank you," she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. He looked at her eyes, tender and steady. "Say nothing. Just stand firm by my side." In that moment in the western town square, Jack and Emily stood together as symbols of courage, honor, and hope. They not only defended their personal bond, but also demonstrated that justice and kindness could prevail even amidst prejudice and societal challenges. Liam and Clara stood nearby, eyes bright, witnessing the emerging strength of their small family, a strength rooted in empathy, courage, and love. Jack gently lowered his gaze to Emily, speaking softly. "We've faced many challenges, but now it's time to show that we will stand strong no matter who doubts or opposes us." Emily smiled, feeling safety and hope spread through her. She knew the Wild West could be harsh, but together they could overcome any obstacle. The townsfolk gradually stepped back, recognizing that Jack's strength was not only physical, but rooted in courage, honor, and justice. Emily felt her heart beat with a new rhythm, one of hope and trust that their love and protection would endure, overcoming all prejudice and trials. As morning sunlight pierced the red dust, Emily held Jack's hand, feeling his warmth. She understood that this moment, standing together amidst challenge and judgment, was not just about protecting their love, but also a symbol of hope and justice in the harsh West. Emily looked at Jack, eyes filled with emotion and gratitude. She realized that his courageous actions not only protected her, but also opened a future where love, honor, and justice coexist. This moment marked a turning point, affirming Emily's growth, their bond, and the flicker of hope shining across the vast western landscape. They walked toward the ranch, Liam and Clara running behind them, creating a scene filled with warmth, hope, and a sense of peace. Emily knew that no challenge, prejudice, or wary glance could break the connection and love between her and Jack. This was proof that courageous action, bravery, and honor could protect love and open a future full of hope in the unforgiving West. Part 10. New Beginning. Sunrise filtered through the trees and wooden rooftops, casting a gentle golden light over the ranch. The wide fields glimmered with morning dew. Cattle grazed quietly, and birdsong echoed throughout the landscape. Emily Turner stepped out onto the cabin porch, taking a deep breath, inhaling the warm scent of wood mingled with the cool morning air. She watched Jack Sawyer tending to Liam and Clara, his gaze full of tenderness, and realized that this moment, a moment of peace and hope, was what she'd been seeking through months of loneliness and trials. Jack smiled as he noticed Emily standing there. "You look radiant this morning," he said, his voice deep and warm, filled with affection. Emily smiled softly, eyes scanning the wide fields. She realized that there were no more blizzards, no harsh challenges, only the calm of the West, and hearts that had found each other. Liam and Clara ran over, grabbing Emily and Jack's hands, pulling them out into the fields. They played around the cows and horses, their laughter pure and ringing, filling the space with warmth. Emily bent to pick up a small stone, tossing it to Liam, and then alongside Jack, guided Clara in jumping over the low fences. Each moment was filled with connection and warmth, creating a peaceful scene where past wounds seemed to dissolve. Jack stood beside Emily, eyes gentle as he looked at her. You've done so well these past days." He said, his voice deep but full of pride and love. Emily felt her heart soften, a smile spreading across her face, a sense of acceptance and safety enveloping her. She knew that the harsh West had once made her afraid and lonely. But now, through love, kindness, and empathy, she had found a true home. The little family prepared breakfast together, sharing warm bread and tea. Liam and Clara laughed and told stories, while Emily and Jack exchanged tender glances wordlessly, communicating profound meaning. The warmth and healing filled the cabin, mingling with the morning light. Emily realized that happiness did not come from grand gestures, but from simple moments, children's laughter, gentle care, and the quiet love shared between two people. After breakfast, Emily and Jack led the animals to the fields, caring for and playing with them. They worked together, sharing both joy and challenges, each moment a testament to the bond of their little family. Emily felt her heart soften all past wounds. Healing replaced with trust, love, and new hope. Jack took Emily's hand as they walked through the fields, their eyes meeting, no words needed. A deep connection had formed through the trials, through tender and healing moments. Emily knew that with Jack by her side, she was no longer alone. Every fear and past loss could be overcome. Their love had blossomed, naturally gentle, yet strong, a shelter amid the harsh West. As the sun rose higher, casting light across the ranch, Emily and Jack stood by the cabin porch, watching Liam and Clara play in the fields. Emily thought, in this harsh West, love and kindness are the only true shelter. We can stand strong, heal, and find happiness as long as we trust and empathize. In that moment, they held hands, exchanged gentle glances, and a sense of peace spread through them. All loneliness, all trials and past wounds were left behind, replaced by love, hope, and healing. Emily knew she had found a true home where her heart and Jack's beat in harmony, caring for Liam and Clara, building a future filled with light. Jack leaned down, gently placing his hand on Emily's shoulder, his voice warm. We've overcome every challenge, and now everything begins anew. Peace, happiness, and love will guide us. Emily smiled, resting her head on his shoulder, feeling serenity flow through her. She knew that from this day forward, every day would be peaceful, where hearts are healed and love blossoms naturally. Liam and Clara ran over, hugging Emily, and Jack laughter ringing in the morning sunlight. This moment marked the end of trials, pain, and loneliness, opening a new chapter, one of peace, love, healing, and happiness in the harsh West. Emily looked up at Jack, eyes full of emotion and gratitude. We've truly found each other, she whispered. Jack held her hand, gaze calm but tender, and now nothing can separate us. This is a new beginning. The story closes amidst the morning light, the wooden cabin and the wide fields, where love, kindness, and empathy became the ultimate shelter. Emily, Jack, Liam, and Clara stood together, hearts beating in sync, feeling peace in every breath, every step. In the harsh West, love and kindness are the only true shelter. Leave a comment and rate it from 0 to 10. Subscribe and tap the bell for the next ride.